So today is the last class for AC 102. We are not going to be doing any more live classes, but yeah, of course you can be active on the forum while you're finishing the assignments and homework. And as part of the homework, you'll see there's 52 videos here. And obviously from Feb video 1 to 10 is the classes that we have done so now. And so video 11, 12, 16 and 17 is going to be your homework. And particularly video 16 is very important because this video, in fact, let me share it with you right now on YouTube. Let me share it again.
Kind of talking to you and assessing your Agni today.
Can
We kind
you
of
hear
reviewed
Connor?
that, kind
Can
of
you
like
hear
the
him?
foundations
The sound?
of the element of fire and how it works in our body. So when we're interviewing someone, we ask clues. So that's what I'm going to be doing. First, what I do is I usually start by like zooming out and zooming in. So I usually like have the person talk about where they are and then move in. It's because environment is so important. And then you can find out what season they're in, and you can kind of build these clues. It's like in a screenplay, right? The person that writes the screenplay.
No, nothing recently.
Okay. And how would you say your stress levels are at this point? Are you working a full-time job? Do you feel overwhelmed? Do you feel like you're juggling a lot of stuff, or do you feel maybe underwhelmed, understimulated?
Definitely the former. Overstimulated, okay. Overwhelmed.
Right. Do you feel like you're really good at a management? It's actually pretty good.
How often we eat out? Maybe now. Do we count eating out as like buying a can of soup, or does that mean going out to a restaurant out?
More like going to a restaurant where they're doing things in the kitchen you can't see.
Probably. Let me think about that.
So the idea is that once you watch this was a mock client encounter question and answers with the student from a previous group and Connor, and I was present in the consultation as well. And we have other consultations where, I am doing a consultation with someone else, and it's just, sometimes there's no video, there's just audio, and we will start sharing those with you as well. But this is the first one that I wanted to share with you, and I would like you to watch it. And then the form that I gave you last week, that I shared with all of you during class. Was it last week? No, that was right, this Sunday, wasn't it? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so, it's the same form. So have your form ready, and I want you to fill out the form. You may not be able to find out what your Agni is, and then we're going to discuss that in class, or we're going to discuss that in forum as well. So we'll continue to discuss these things in forum, and then of course you will be presenting a case study on the forum sometime in March, I told you. So except for that, there'll be no other the classes. So those 4 or 5 recordings that I just mentioned, they're kind of important. So that's it. Now let's go and start our class. Okay, here we go. All right, so let's see. Today we are bringing a lot of things we have done. So now we're going to try and bring it, basically just consolidate. This one has 37 slides. So there will be slides that I will be skipping over. And the reason for that is, and we also have a very nice recording of the slides that I'm slipping over. Christina, one of our Ayurveda practitioner student, had done a class on those slides particularly, where she goes into each food group. I'm not going to go into that. I am kind of more interested in getting to the point where I start talking about imbalances and diseases and disorders of the GI tract. So we have to get everything out in this 1.5 hours that we have right now. So basically, a lot of the slides in this lecture you've already covered, either with Dr. Priyanka or with Atul or even with myself. Like I said, the most important thing that I'm kind of interested in is, talking about the digestive disorders from a Western perspective. And it's all going to come together when you do your uh, assessment, like the Agni assessment, and we find out that there's a digestive disorder, and then how do we address it and what does that mean? So this is kind of the most important part of the lecture there. The diet protocols, even if I were to talk about it for 6 hours, you know, we are not trying to make you learn the diet protocols. We are just trying to give you a guideline so you can just basically print it out and you can use it as a guideline to give your client. So we're kind of giving you, kind of spoon feeding you. So there's 3 diets given. This is just a guideline again. This is not written in, you know, stone. It's not written in gold. It's a guideline. So here's everything that is here. The reason it says light diet is because, you know, it's for someone who's recovering from something. Is Anna here? Anna, are you here? No. Okay. So if somebody is recovering, so we have a student who's agreed to be our case study, and she has a Vata imbalance going right now. And so Anna, if you're there, or if you watch it, this is a really, really, really good diet for you. But it cannot just be Vata. We also need to ground you. So whole wheat flour is not really light, is it? So this is just a guideline. I would probably do rice, a little bit of wheat, and a lot of ghee. Oats, absolutely. Yellow mung beans, again with lots of ghee. Watery, brothy soup, vata spices. If you think about it, we have talked about legumes, veggies, fruits, dairy, oils, everything, except for the nuts. We haven't really talked about nuts and seeds as much, which we can today. And vata can have all kind of, even honey in a small amount, but usually you should avoid honey when there's an extreme vata imbalance. But otherwise, this is exactly what you've done. But the reason we say light diet, you always kind of start with, you know, watery, brothy, soupy. Think the beverage class that I did with you guys. And the same thing for light pitta. You're using the same rasas, you know, the 3 rasas: bitter, astringent, and sweet. Except the aim and objective of the story is to cool it. It is still moong dal, it is still rice, it's still soups, it's barley, unleavened bread. So the basic ingredient is almost the same as a vata person, but then the dairy products have changed. I would actually not even give goat's milk. Ghee, buttermilk, you've added in the vegetables, you've added in pitta-friendly vegetables like bitter vegetables. That's the difference. Sweeteners, turbinado sugar, all basically, I wouldn't even give honey, but very small amounts. If a person has a very high pitta, I wouldn't even give honey, and he's very heating. That's the answer I just gave you. Light diet means when someone is recovering from an illness. Let's say you got sick. Let's say you got the flu for 3-4 days. So what will happen on those 3-4 days when you had the flu? Your Agni kind of goes down and you're not able to digest very well, right? So when you're recovering from that flu, or let's say you know, somebody in your family had a surgery or whatever illness it might be, as you're recovering from it, your Agni is not able to handle heavy duty foods, right? At that time, the diet is not 6 rasas in a big plate. It's very light. Means you eat less. Literally, the amount of food you eat is less. Does it make sense? Does it make sense? But if you look at it, the stuff that we've added, whole wheat flour, is not really light because wheat is very heavy duty, right? But for pitta person, if you don't give them, you know, like something grounding and heavy, they are not. You have to make sure that even their light diet fills them up. Does it make sense? So there is no juicing here. Yeah. Should I save this slide for you? Anyway, okay. I will save it for you. And again, you know all of this stuff. You've discussed all of it. So today we are just bringing everything that we've been discussing this month. We are bringing it together. Again, kapha. Oh my God, absolutely no wheat for kapha when they are recovering from. When kapha is recovering from something, they have like a sinus issue, and they have a, you know, congestion, and they can't breathe, and the kapha is flowing out everywhere. You want to avoid wheat. What if it's a kapha vata person? You know, you cannot give heavy, you cannot give light, then you just give rice, but you give it with ghee and grounding vegetables. Okay. No, I will not give this. I wouldn't even give this. I wouldn't give this. I would not give this. I would be okay with this and even with a little bit of barley, and the amount would be very less. So think of it as the rice is to, so one portion rice to 2 portion legumes to 3 portions to 4 portions vegetables to 1 portion fruit, and absolutely no dairy product. So if you have a kapha who's recovering from all the kaphatic problems, then you probably, let me save that, because you know I this was done by a practitioner student. Yeah. So for somebody who's a recovering person, so when it's so there's 2 diets. So here's another way to answer your question, Antonia. There is a diet that we eat, food that we eat when we are well. You know, we have our whatever tea, coffee, beverage in the morning. We have breakfast, we have lunch, we have dinner. Sometimes we eat 2 meals a day. Sometimes we go out. Sometimes people have alcohol. Sometimes they go out to a restaurant or a party and they eat a little bit more. Other times they don't. So that's your normal routine. And in that normal routine, you need the 6 tastes, right? Because there's nothing wrong. But when you get sick or you're recovering from something, even in Ayurvedic texts talk about, you know, if I just met a lady the other day at a party, and she was saying, it was quite interesting. She, you know, when people hear I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner, they just kind of offload their stuff. So I jokingly told her, if you tell me your issues, I'm going to use it in class. She's like, yeah, go ahead. So basically, she had a breakup with her partner. And when she broke up, she was in such shock that she became allergic to 90% of food. It was completely not somatic, psychogenic, when your brain produces an allergic reaction. So, I mean, she's going to be coming to me for as a client. But so Ayurveda completely and totally believes that if you're angry, if you have had an emotional turbulence of any kind, it doesn't matter where it's coming from. You know, it doesn't matter if it's coming from the White House and the, you know, whatever's going on in, you know, Washington, D.C. right now with the whole drama. It doesn't matter. If you're stressed, the day you're stressed, if you have a light diet on the day you're very stressed or emotional, you will feel better the next day. So that just for that one day, for 2 or 3 meals, if you go on a light diet, it would be good. Are you understanding where I'm coming from? Of course, when you're unwell and you're recovering from illness or you're recovering from surgery, like this would be a great diet for a postpartum kapha mom. You know, she's recovering from surgery, she's recovering from illness, even recovering from flu. And forget the flu, even, you know, those heavy duty days in this seasonal junction, when it's raining outside and it's those crazy days, and you're not feeling well, just generally you're not feeling, that one day, eat less and have a lighter diet. That is the idea. Otherwise, if you're normal, and that means, you know, and your appetite is good, then, you know, you have your normal diet with 6 rasas. Is it making sense where we're coming from? Okay, let's see. A couple of more people joined. Oh, okay. So this one's interesting. Diet protocol for reducing Sometimes people will turn up, and I get so many of these people with fatigue issues. And the first thing you want to check is ask them, have you been tested for anemia? And as long as they're not anemic, or they don't have mono, or they don't have any chronic fatigue syndrome, but they just generally, there's nothing medically wrong with them and they're just fatigued. So you look at the coated tongue, and when you come for the July workshop, you'll be doing this, you know, general lethargy. Then we give ama. But if a person is, let's say, recovering from a very severe illness, let's say there's someone who's, you know, recovering from chemotherapy. That chemotherapy is like induced ama, if you think about it. all those drugs that have been given, they're very, very powerful and toxic, but you do not want to remove them at that time. No, no, sir. No detoxification at that time, because they're there to do a job. Doesn't make any sense. So if somebody is on prescription meds, please don't talk about, or, let's do some detox, because that's not the scope. The idea is someone has low Agni and they're just fatigued and they have Ama, then these light protocols, the ones that we talked about, would also work. Basically almost like a soupy diet. Mostly, and now I don't, Andre is not here because it's like nighttime in Finland. But, he had asked that question about ahimsa and non-violence, where you, Antonia, had also answered, and we were talking about ahimsa. And normally, even if a person is a meat eater, even if they're in a very cold country where, meat is the diet. Like I had a client who's Ukrainian, Ukrainian diet is, a lot of potatoes and meat, right? But she was a postpartum mom. I said, just for the next month, I'm okay with soup. You need to be a vegetarian for 1 month. Can you do it? And she did it, and it really, really helped. And then when she went back to her regular diet, she was just eating less of it. That was the idea. Just for the month, she had a baby. And the great news was Ukrainians had these lovely soups that they do. I just asked her to remove the animal-based foods from there. So, and yeah, I asked her to do it for 1 month, approximately 4 weeks, and then go back to your regular diet. So that is the idea. So that'll help reduce Ama. This is just one example for, let's say, a Vata or Pitta person. Fruits to cooked chutney for breakfast, khichdi for lunch, and dinner with dosha appropriate veggies and spices. It could be roasted veggies. It could be a baked veggies. It could be a veggie soup with legumes. And everything should be like a hot broth with or without mung dal. And the only difference for Vata and Pitta in this would be the difference in veggies and spices. And you would have to add a lot more rice for Pitta person, because if they were to just be given mung dal, they'll be hungry. They won't be able to tolerate it. Oh no, I wasn't talking about that kind. I was talking about very, very powerful meds. Like if somebody is on an antibiotic, that kind of thing. Like very, or chemo drugs. I was talking about powerful drugs, not for, not like that. Yeah. This is one example that we came up with. So just to give you, when you are doing this for your client, because you are going to actually tell them, you're going to make a chart. And usually what I do is I give them Saturday and Sunday off. So I tell them, these are your cheat days. Oh my God, I think I'd mentioned that they love their cheat days. Or just do it for like 6 days or 5 days, and then cheat on Sunday, and then go back to it on Monday for like whatever. And many times if you don't tell them to cheat, they love it. They will cheat anyway. 9 times out of 10 people don't listen to you. Unless you're a very pitta person, they might listen to you. Just to give an example, for breakfast, apple stew with spices is great for kapha, because kapha do not have a really appetite in the morning. But pitta, if you don't give them a breakfast, they would probably they would be very upset. So example, it could be apple chutney, strawberry chutney with rice crepes, or even wheat, even just regular crepes but without the egg. Just ghee, or hot rice kanji maybe. And for Vata, mung dal crepes, or even garbanzo bean crepes. Or forget crepes, you could take sprouted mung dal and a little bit of rice, and toss it up with the ghee and some veggies. Permutation and combination. So basically you're having the same thing, but you're making it a little tasty. And lunch, you will see everything is mung bean khichdi, veggie and spices, the difference being in the veggies. And kapha snack is roasted veggies, and dinner is soup. Whereas pitta is getting 2 full meals, and vata is also getting 2 full meals, right? And they're getting a lot of nice stuff. They're getting roast jams. So where is the time? So this is an example of a lighter diet. But there is no eating from outside. And this khichdi is like semi-solid khichdi. Sorry, it's semi-liquid khichdi. It's half solid, so it's kind of like a soupy khichdi. But there is veggies, and then there's broth, there's milk, sunflower seeds, almonds. But you're seeing, we are not starving anybody in an Ayurvedic detox or a light diet. We are giving them, this is a balancing diet just to be followed for like a week or whatever. And you know, I had one student who was breaking into these hives, and she was getting all these allergies. And she went on this diet for 2 weeks, and all her hives, everything disappeared. She felt great. And then I didn't talk to her for a month. And after 1 month, she said, Manjulali, can I eat something else? I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, I've been on this diet for 2 months. I've lost weight. I'm so bored. I'm like, this was for 2 weeks. Why have you been on this for 2 months? She said, well, I figured it makes me feel so good. So we, you know, because she had kind of lost weight, we introduced whole wheat. For lunch, we introduced some protein and whatnot, you know. But she pretty much, you know, she stuck with this kind of breakfast because it really helped her with allergies. But that's just one example. Is it making sense how we kind of make a plan? Any questions about this? Oh, these are Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are just examples that you could do. You know, like one day do this, one day do that, one day do this, one day do that. That's an example. This is just a guideline. I am not making a you know, protocol and giving it to you. I'm just giving you an example. It's like, you know, you could do one day this, one day that, one day this, one day that, for example. Yeah. Yeah. And Saturday, Sunday, I kind of usually, this is just what I do. Okay, get it? All right, good. So now I want to talk about fasting. And usually in the West, people will go on a juice fast. So let me ask you right here, and you can put it in the chat. What do you guys think of juice fasting? Anybody does juice fast? Just to give you an example, juice fasting is an extremely imbalanced way of detoxification. It's the opposite of detoxification in Ayurveda. Why do you think that is? Yeah, absolutely. It's just sugar. All the fiber. So it's basically just fructose and water, and most of the fiber from the fruit, which is the goodness of the fruit. Fiber is the magical ingredient with the fructose that keeps the, you know, that makes us healthy, and that's all been taken away. And number two, we need to taste the rasa on our tongue and chew. There is no chewing. You need to chew your food. Chewing is an important thing. And number three, it is not, it vitiates Agni because most of the juicing is with cold beverages. Whereas Ayurveda fasting, instead of soup, instead of juice, we will do soups. Soup is hot in temperature and has spices, and it is ghee. It's more balancing. It doesn't mean that we don't use juice in Ayurveda. We do, but we use a very small amount. Like during the fast, we might use half a cup or 1 cup of juice in an entire day, but the juice will have vegetables in it, and it'll be whole juice. It'll not be filtered juice. Does it make sense? Like a smoothie juice, you know, with the whole, you actually taste everything in it. And it'll be very small amounts. So the typical Western fasting, juicing, detoxifying, like, you know, people will do their apple cider vinegar fast for 10 days. And when they tell me I have to bite my tongue, and then they tell me, oh my God, I feel so good. I've lost so much weight. Of course, in the beginning, they feel good. And then what happens is, then if they go back after 10 days to their typical diet, then all the ama and toxins that they've pulled up from their body, they will go back into the tissues. It's like brushing your teeth, and then instead of spitting it out, you're taking it back in. That is what happens. And then you basically, with all that, your digestion goes to sleep and it doesn't wake up. So you actually end up vitiating your Agni. And another example for this is like a raw food diet where people don't eat anything cooked. So like I said, Ayurvedic fasting is, you are not going to go hungry. And we need to rekindle your digestion. We need to metabolize the ama and toxins. Does it make sense? And it is not, Ayurvedic fasting is not for 10 days. For each dosha, it's different. Question? No, the fasting part is good. Nobody is doubting fasting is not good. It's the way they go do fast cold turkey and they starve themselves in fasting. That's what the problem is. Does it make sense? For example, it's like you are eating a normal diet, 3 meals a day on Monday, and Tuesday you go on a cold turkey. You just quit cold turkey and you're just starving, and it's kind of shocks the body. In Ayurveda, we will, prepare for the fast. So we will maybe miss 1 meal for 5 days, and then we'll miss 2 meals and substitute those 2 meals with something else for another 3 days. And then we will do our fast for 3 days or 5 days or 7 days. 3, 5, or 7 usually are the days. It doesn't even go up to 7 days. It's usually 1 day, 2 day, 1 day, 3 day, 5 day, 7 day. That's the maximum. And you cannot starve yourself during fasting. And obviously, I don't know if you've ever fasted, you stop feeling hungry. The process of this, the ketosis, the whole ketogenic diet is based on that. But we do not want, so herein, fresh orange juice is good for vata, but doesn't mean they're going to have orange juice for every single meal. The entire amount of orange juice or a citrusy juice a vata is going to have is 1 cup in the entire day. But they're going to have it room temperature, freshly squeezed with pulp, and they're going to add warming vata spices in it. And they will start with fasting 2 to 3 consecutive meals 1 day per week only. So they will do 1 day and the next day they will eat a more normal diet like that. And they will eat khichdi. They will eat khichdi and they'll eat soups with ghee in it. So they're eating their vegetables, they're eating their rice, they're eating their mung dal and plain hot water. This is just an example. Again, this is a guideline. This is not set in stone. And for vata person, we suggest we take into account the energy of the day. Saturday is for pacification of Saturn, which governs vata. And for Monday, for heart, it is heart problems, bones, it's Sunday because it's governed by sun. For women, for relationships and emotional issues, Monday, and you're fasting for Shiva. And actually, it's Wednesday for Mercury and Thursday for Jupiter. Let me change that. See, I haven't done, it was actually, Atul was supposed to take this class and he came home really late, like 2 minutes before the class started. So I haven't done this class for like, I don't know how long. So I'm kind of just opened it and started doing it. So if I go off on a tangent, stop me and bring me back. So Wednesday for Mercury, Vishnu. Monday for Moon, Shiva. Saturday for Saturn, Shiva again, and Parvati. And Thursday for Jupiter, Guru. So what happens when you're fasting on specific, like only fasting once a week? Like Atul and I and Dr. Kirti, she used to be here, our teacher for years and years and years. We all fasted on Ekadashi, which was the 11th day of the moon, meaning 4 days before Purnima. And I know a lot of people will also fast on Purnima, but Purnima is not the best day to fast, depending on what the tithi is. But anyway, Saturday, so when you offer the result of the fasting to certain, whosoever you're, for example, it's in every culture. You know how I think Lent is going on, and in the Catholic culture, in Lent, you give up one thing. You that is a fasting, that's abstinence. So Ayurvedic fasting is almost like a process of abstinence. So just like in Lent, you give up one thing. We also in Vedic culture, we do this fasting in October for 1 month where we give up tomatoes, and there's like a whole list of food you give up. It's very difficult. And you know, people follow celibacy, or I used to sleep on the floor for 1 month when I was in India, and there were times I would not eat grains for a month, so I would be on grainless diet. It was fantastic. And yeah, so but you were eating everything else normal, you know. So we would make food with buckwheat and quinoa and so on. So the idea of fasting is when you're giving the result of the fasting. I want to mention here for heart issues, sun on a Sunday. So consider fasting for heart issues. What kind of fasting and offer the result to sun god or the demigod Surya. You know, you do a Surya Namaskar when you do sun salutation. So even doing sun salutation on a Sunday and offering the result of the sun salutation to sun. So the fasting has almost like a spiritual connotation. It's not just fasting for the physical body, but it's also fasting for mind. So that's why just fast 1 day a week. That's it. It'll bring things into track. So you don't really want a Vata person to go hungry. Oh no. No, 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 no. Yes, that's exactly what it means. But you can still have a soup, like a vegetable soup with a little bit of ghee. Yeah. It doesn't mean you go. It depends. Like we do Ekadashi. There's some Ekadashis we do fruit chutneys and some yam and basically vegetable soups all day. So though our reason for fasting on those days is religious, because it's in our Vaishnav culture, because we're devotees of Vishnu. You know, we fast on these days, but the idea is, you know, abstinence, and also, you know, learning detachment from material things. So, you know, we have a different purpose of doing it, but usually the next day I feel lighter and it's good. So we only do it once every 15 days, so only twice a month. I mean, I just fast twice a month basically. Yes. And the soup can be like just grounding vata vegetables. It could be mung dal. It could be a little bit of rice in the dal if you're too hungry, you know, depending on how hungry a person is. This is just one example. Again, like, this is not set in stone. Okay, I have 37 slides to go through, so I'm just going to rush here. And the same principles, just like you're fasting for vata, pitta cannot go hungry. So they will fast up to 2 days a week, but they're going to do things like pomegranate juice, carrot, romaine, celery juices, and have a regular meal with rice and mung dal and soup as well. So one meal will be like a vegetable juice, and one meal would be like a khichdi. So lunch could be that, and maybe a fruit chutney. Does it make any sense? And a good time is Tuesday and Sunday. Kapha can, actually, I will take this back. I don't want any kapha to have any juices. Thank you very much. No juices. They can do carrot. Why is carrot and celery so fantastic for kapha? Because they are diuretics. And the juice that we are talking about, please remember, those people who are going to be watching the recording, not more than 1 cup a day. That means it's just one meal. Diuretic means that when you have too much carrot or celery, you know, even watercress. So watercress, turmeric, ginger. This is a great juice, 1 cup juice, but 48 ml. Carrot, watercress, turmeric, ginger, and celery makes a fantastic 1 cup juice for kapha, and it basically makes them pee like for an hour, and all that excessive congestion clears up. But for the second meal, kapha can have again, vegetable or dal soup. Does it make sense? Only one meal is, so unlike, again, remember when we do juicing in Ayurveda, we always add spices to it. So in a kapha juice, we'll add kapha spices. In a pitta juice, we'll add pitta spices. So it's a completely different ball game. And kaphas can, fast for 2 days per week, easy. And all the meals. Yeah, so one meal can be juice, one meal is can just be roasted vegetables, one meal, and absolutely no fruits. So other doshas can have fruits when they're fasting. Kapha, no fruit, because fruit is sugar. And kaphas should focus on having just 2 meals and not 3 meals in the day they're fasting. Okay. So I'm not going to do the food and the mind part because maybe I'll just do very quickly, because the effect of rasas on the mind, Dr. Priyanka already covered. And then we already know that everything, and we've been discussing it, everything in the world has 3 gunas, right? So we also need to consider when we are making a diet plan for someone, if someone, like we had that discussion on mushrooms, right? Yeah, mushrooms are fantastic, but if someone is very tamasic and they are very lethargic and they can't even get out of sofa and they're just eating chips and watching TV and eating ice cream all day, and you want to get them moving, then you cannot give tamasic foods like mushrooms. If someone is overindulging in red meat, a lot of red meat, so that leads to, and someone has anger issues and they have maybe behavior issues, or they have pitta issues, then we want to reduce their rajasic qualities, not increase them. Does that make sense? So also for tamasic, what is it that will mushrooms were one example, but even people who eat processed food, junk food, old food, frozen food, canned food, all that nonsense that comes from those fast food restaurants, that is bloody, that increases your tamasic qualities, and then the meat itself increases rajasic qualities extremely. So if you have any client who has a mental issue with either rajasic tendencies where they're just going on and on and on and they can't stop thinking, or they can't even sleep, or the pitta is high, then you want to bring them to sattva. So just for a little while, you want to change their diet to a plant-based vegetarian sattvic diet. And again, this is something you have already done. So rajasic food promotes activity but disturb the equilibrium of the mind. So for a kapha person who is sitting on the sofa like a couch potato and doesn't want to get up, for them, giving them a little bit of rajasic food is not a bad idea, but only for a couple of days. For example, coffee, caffeinated tea, caffeinated soda, just once in a blue moon, just to get that kapha moving, is okay. Onion, garlic, egg, chocolate, chili, hot spices. But you cannot, even to a kapha, you cannot give this every day. It'll end up disturbing their mind also. But if it's a pitta person, coffee, I think we had the discussion, salted foods, onion, garlic, eggs, chilies, hot spices, very, very, it will increase. I'm especially talking about a pitta person who's already imbalanced. And tamasic foods, alcohol, stale foods, leftovers, processed, refined flour, refined sugar, and mushrooms. And like we had that discussion already. And I think Dr. Priyanka talked about sattvic foods. Sattvic foods are like rice and dal and vegetables and soups. So Antonia, do you go to Casa de Luz? Casa de Luz is this fantastic restaurant here. Oh my God, that is a very sattvic place. Yes, eggs would come under, so eggs would come under rajasic. The egg yolk is tamasic and the egg white is rajasic. Because think of how much protein that yellow of the egg yolk is going to give, become life. So it's very, very rajasic, very tamasic. So white is yellow is tamasic and white is rajasic. So there is this restaurant called Casa de Luz here in Austin. And basically they make food in-house, beautifully cooked. There's basically no spices at all. And it's so sattvic. So if you come here in July, you'll probably get to taste it. It's the only restaurant I can go to, and when I come back from there, it's not even a restaurant. There are people who are, it's like an ashram. People are cooking with love. And so that is a very sattvic food. It's all vegan and macrobiotic and whatnot. The foods are situated in mode of purity, something that is local and organic, things like pumpkin, ghee root, vegetables, all of this. So the idea is let me just write this down so it makes a little bit more sense. So a person who's in tamasic mode, it's easier to make them rajasic first and then move them to sattvic. Does that make sense? You cannot move tamasic to a rajasic, a sattvic. Someone who's so lazy and you're giving them ghee, they're not going to listen. You need to kind of give them a little, onion, garlic, make them move and get the kapha moving, the tamas moving before we can give them sattvic foods. Does that make sense? So that is the formula for helping the mind. All right. This you already done. And this is the main part of our. So, one of the things we want to mention it, and we do actually discuss it later on when we discuss diseases of Annavaha Shrotasis. So the gastrointestinal tract, right from your mouth all the way to the anus, down with all where the digestive tract is, called Annavaha Shrotasis. Any disease or disorder that happens in the GI tract is called the disease or disorder of the Annavaha Shrotasis. Now, technically, anything and diseases that have not even been discovered yet, that will be discovered 10 years from now, they will all be under. The reason I want to talk about celiac is celiac is an autoimmune disorder and it's very serious. But people will come and say, I'm gluten intolerant, and they don't know what celiac means, and they'll say, I have celiac. No, they don't. Celiac is a very, people can go into anaphylactic shock with a serious celiac disease. Gluten intolerance is simply then, you had wheat and you're intolerant to gluten, causes some inflammation and makes you feel bloated and heavy and you don't feel so good. But the amount of inflammation is different. So these are two different things, that's all. And really, when I was growing up in India, I had never heard of all of this. But because, the lady who made this, the practitioner student, she was very passionate about, non-GMO. Yes, thanks to GMO. Anything that has been processed that's not made by Mother Nature, that will cause some problems. So they say 1 in 4 people have an issue with gluten because we're having, in fact, Ayurveda says all the allergies have been happening because we eat too much processed food. That is the aim, and that is basically the reason we get so many. So these are just some symptoms, and all we are trying to do is people will come with celiac and gluten intolerance, and usually a kapha person is naturally intolerant to gluten normally. Even so, kaphas should not, they don't feel so good with gluten. So it doesn't mean they should stop having it, just avoid it for breakfast and dinner, but okay in small amounts for lunch because it gives mandagani. So the celiac disease, people who have been diagnosed with celiac, they have to have antibody tests. They have biopsies of their small intestine to check whether the villi is damaged or not. They also have blood tests for alkaline phosphatase bone loss. And then they're giving gluten-free diet. So where do you come in? So when you have someone like that who comes in, let me go back to all of these fantastic things. Mung dal crepes, rice crepes with ghee. Otherwise, have you ever tasted the horrible gluten-free bread made with tapioca starch in the supermarket? It tastes like cardboard. The whole celiac was not even on my radar, but I naturally cook a kapha pacifying diet and there is barely any wheat in it except for sometimes at lunch. So when I would have clients who would tell me that, we have celiac or whatever, gluten intolerance, I would say, well, everything today is made without gluten. Really? And they're like, oh my God, what is it? Mung dal crepes, easiest. You can get mung dal flour, ready-made from Indian store. You can get, I'm trying to, mung dal. You can get garbanzo bean flour. So ready-made flour, add some water to it, and make it like a pancake. Khichdi, rice and mung beans. Absolutely okay. Now, I actually did a workshop for people with gluten issues many years ago, and this is what I made. And people came with their kids, and they're like, "What should we feed our kid? He is, oh my God, I don't know what to get him." So we made rice crepes. We made mung dal crepes. I have videos and pictures, on the YouTube website. I made rice and mung dal and veggie burger patties. Then, of course, we did some soups and chutneys. So this is where you come in. You can give them ideas about foods that they can have, which is not taste like cardboard, basically. Okay. And of course, we'll also give things like turmeric and neem. And of course, if someone is coming to an Ayurveda practitioner, we also do bastis, which are oil enemas and stuff like that. So this, I'm going to lead, you could read this yourself. I'm more interested in kind of introducing the concept. So IBS is very, very common. In Ayurveda, we call it grahani. Let me write it down. And there's 3 types of grahanis. Pitta grahani, vata grahani, and so IBS in Ayurveda would be of 3 types. Now there's one of the homeworks that I've given you, watch a recording, and that's a recording on Ayurveda diseases of the Annavah Shrotasis, but instead of talking in Western terms, you're just talking in Sanskrit. So it talks about grahani. So in Ayurveda there's 3 types: vata type, pitta type, and kapha type. That means the IBS is the same. The symptoms are the same: abdominal pain, cramping, fullness, gas, bloating, changes in bowel movements, blah, blah, blah. It's the same. But it is manifesting itself. The symptoms will have qualities, gunas of vata and pitta and kapha in it, which is not, it's outside the scope of AC 102. We do it in AC 107. But I just wanted to give you that in Ayurveda, we take the same disease and their usually manifestations are 7 types. You have a disease, can be vata disease, pitta disease, kapha disease, vata pitta, pitta kapha, vata kapha, or tridoshik, which we call sanipaitic. Okay. There we go. And one thing more, IBS can also be quite psychogenic as well. So Western treatment is regular exercise, avoid large meals, avoid caffeine, increase fiber, and antidepressants. Now, this is where I want to get into. So we have from our mouth to the anus, that entire area, the gastrointestinal tract, is called Annavah Shrotas. What is happening? What is the pathology? This is the pathology. And we call it Nidanam. The path of disease, pathology, the low Agni results in accumulation of Ama. So it starts off with Mandagni. First step, it starts off with Mandagni, low Agni. And this leads to food particles being undigested, leads to Ama, that white coating and whatnot. And then it is not taken care of. This Ama now travels from stomach to the intestine. From stomach, it travels to the intestines. and then it causes damage to the intestines. It is stuck in the intestines and causes damage there. Oh. So when someone comes to me with this issue, one of the things is we'll do panchakarma for them, or we might have them do bastis, right? So again, there is 3 types of IBS. You know, we do it in a lot more detail. I'm just introducing you to the idea of how we look at disease in Ayurveda. It is not, do you understand where I'm coming from? This is just an introduction, that's all. So, you know, don't freak out. So it is the same disorder, it's the same imbalance, it's the starting with low Agni and becoming Ama, traveling from stomach to intestine where the stuff starts damaging, causing damage and problems. But the symptoms are different. So if you look at, when we say Vata type of IBS or IBD, it does not mean that it is only happening in a Vata person. That means the exhibition or expression of the symptom is of a Vata, that it can happen to a Pitta person also. Does it make sense? But yes, generally, as a general rule, you will see Vata IBS in a Vata person, Pitta IBS in a Pitta person, and Kapha IBS in a Kapha person. Same thing happens in Chardi, which is nausea and vomiting. You have Vata type of vomiting, you have Pitta type of vomiting, you have Kapha type of vomiting. So we have that division of disease in everything. Constipation, bloating, weight loss, feeling cold, anal fissures, anxiety, very common, but they don't have heartburn or acid reflux. In Pitta, and it doesn't mean Vata type doesn't have loose stools. They will sometimes may have loose stools. But Pitta type will has Amla Pitta. It has heartburn. It has acid reflux. He has loose stools. They have a foul, fleshy smell to their stool. They feel inflamed. Kapha will be very mucoidal stools. It's mucus in the stool, sluggish bowels, heaviness in the body. They may also have constipation. They may have also loose stool, but this is a general idea of symptoms. Does it make sense? Do you want me to repeat this? Are you still digesting this? I want you to go back and, you know, review the class, this portion again. And of course, I've given you lots of homework. Make sense? Okay. So let's go back. So we started with Ama, which went to intestine. So we want to reduce the, we'll give things like Haritaki to Vata person, we'll give Amalaki to Pitta person. For Kapha, we might give something else. The idea is we kind of go back that path we came from. Ama in food, low. So we want to increase the Agni. By increasing the Agni, the Ama is reduced. We also want to reduce the Ama by giving herbs. So we give Agni and Ama protocols, which means no red meat, no processed foods, like everything freshly cooked, no cold foods. When we say cold, I mean cold in temperature. And this is the, remember the light diet we talked about in the beginning? This is where you're going to give that light diet. That means for a Vata IBS, you're going to give that light type of Vata. The only thing is you will avoid wheat in this. Protocols to pacify aggravated dosha include spices and herbs, and the same spices and herbs that you generally use. But you know, I would give Triphala to all the 3 doshas, but I would give Triphala and Haritaki. I would give Triphala and Bibitaki, and also ginger, and Triphala and Amalaki. Do you want me to write that down? Triphala plus Haritaki. So Haritaki is already an ingredient in Triphala, but I would even give more of it. And Triphala plus Amla berry and Triphala plus ginger tea these are just some, so Triphala is a very simple thing, but if between the diet and Triphala, things will start improving. Okay. So this assignment is not due till March. You're going to make one chutney. If he's already been given, you've done it, that's fantastic. Any fruit chutney. And then you will make either ghee or a kashaya. No, forget the kashaya. Ghee or a soup. Either one of those. No, I don't want you to make a khichdi. It's too hard. We are just sticking with either you can make a soup or a chutney, soup or a ghee or a chutney. Just make one thing. If you're very like gung-ho about this, make all three. But I just want you to make one thing. Really, every Ayurvedic counselor should know how to. This was done by Susan. She just made ghee and she used one of those coffee filters. Okay? No, you do it for a few weeks with IBS. And the thing is, you can only manage it because it is partly psychogenic. So, when they are exposed to certain psychological things, it'll come back. But yeah, Triphala is kind of the best friend, or, it's a very good friend too, because it doesn't harm your colon. It is completely harmless. Yeah. Any questions? I hope you enjoyed the class. Okay. So one of the things you're going to do is, like the homework that I've given you, watch those 4 recordings. Please watch the mock client encounter between Connor and one of her students, and then you're going to do the form. And of course, you're going to do it for yourself, present it. And you're also going to do it for one more person and present it March 23rd or 20th or something like that. I don't remember. Whatever is the last day of the last day before the spring break is March 25th. So you still have plenty of time, almost 1 month. But the idea is that's the client encounter that you'd be presenting. Oh, no, you are not expected to interpret it. You're just supposed to fill it and we will in class interpret it. Absolutely. Don't interpret it. Just fill it. That's it. Okay. And share it with me after you've after you filled it up. Share it with me, and then I am the one who's going to interpret it in class. Perfect. So starting March, you have 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 6 classes in March, and it's going to be all AC 103. Plus, we are going to do this Agni assessment. Is the only thing we are going to be doing from, because the Agni is both common to AC 102 and 103. So officially the classes for AC 102 are done. We are now in AC 103, and that was a lot of information this month. Has it all sunk in, or are you still digesting it?